Let's be honest for a second. When you hear the word meditation, what image flickers across the screen of your mind? Is it a monk smiling blissfully on a mountaintop? Is it the smell of incense, soft synthesizer music, or the promise of finally relaxing after a stressful week? If that is your definition, I need you to take it, crumple it up, and throw it into the fire. Because that definition is not only incomplete, it is dangerous. It disarms you exactly when you should be arming yourself. We have been sold a watered-down version of an ancient technology. We have been told that we sit in silence to find peace, to lower our cortisol, or to feel a little bit better about our chaotic lives. But if we look back at the origins of this practice, if we consult the manuals of the Zen masters in feudal Japan, or the private journals of Roman emperors like Marcus Aurelius, we find a very different story. They didn't meditate to relax. They meditated to survive. A samurai did not sit in zazen to clear his head for a nap. He sat to cultivate a state of mind so unshakable that he could face a drawn sword without flinching. He was looking for a fortress inside his own skull. So here is the uncomfortable question we need to start with. What if the purpose of meditation isn't to soothe the mind, but to conquer it? What if the goal isn't peace, but power? The specific, focused power to stand still while the world around you burns. To understand this, we have to look at the mechanism that is currently running your life. We need to talk about the pendulum. Take a moment right now and observe the internal weather of your head. It is rarely still. In fact, it is a constant, violent oscillation. This is the trap of duality. The human mind in its default state is a binary machine. It is obsessed with sorting reality into two piles, good or bad, like or dislike, yes or no, pleasure or pain. Every single second of your waking life, you are unconsciously judging your experience. You walk into a room, I like the temperature, or it's too cold. You meet a person, I trust them, or they look suspicious. You think about tomorrow, I'm excited or I'm afraid. This is the pendulum, and the terrifying truth is that you are strapped to it. When the pendulum swings to the right, towards pleasure, praise, or success, you feel a temporary high. But the laws of physics and the laws of the mind are identical in this regard. The swing to the right creates the potential energy for the inevitable, crushing swing to the left. The higher you fly on external validation, the harder you crash when criticism hits. You are not living, you are reacting. You are being dragged back and forth across the floor of your own life by a momentum you did not choose. This constant oscillation creates a profound exhaustion. Have you ever wondered why you feel tired even when you haven't done physically demanding work? It's because your engine is revving in neutral. The internal dialogue, that narrator who never shuts up, is consuming massive amounts of energy just to keep this game of tennis going. It debates with itself. It simulates arguments that haven't happened yet. It replays embarrassments from 10 years ago. It splits the world into me versus them, this versus that. This is the tyranny of the dualistic mind. It fractures reality into pieces, and then it forces you to choose a side. But the ancient Stoics and the Zen lineages suggested a radical alternative. They spoke of a state of consciousness that exists before the split happens. They pointed to a capability within the human operating system that is not a judge, but a witness. Imagine for a moment that the pendulum is swinging wildly, violent arcs from left to right. Now, imagine looking up. Where is the pendulum attached? At the very top, there is a pivot point, a fulcrum. The arm of the pendulum moves 1,000 miles an hour, but the pivot point? The pivot point does not move. It rotates, perhaps, but it stays centered. It holds the tension of the opposites without being torn apart by them. This is what we are really hunting for. We are not trying to stop the pendulum by grabbing it. That just gets you hit. We are trying to climb up the rope. We are looking for the non-dual focal point. This is the concept that changes everything. It is the integration of the dual into a single beam of pure awareness. It is the ability to look at pain and pleasure and see them as the same information, just different frequencies. Most people live their entire lives trapped in the arc of the swing, dizzy and nauseous from the motion. But the master, the warrior of the mind, learns to inhabit the pivot point. From there, you can watch the drama of your life, the tragedy and the comedy, without being the victim of it. This isn't about becoming a robot with no emotions. It is about becoming the master of the house, rather than the servant running around trying to fix every broken window. But how do we get there? How do we physically and mentally climb that rope to find the center? It turns out there is a map, and it involves something surprisingly physical, It starts not in the clouds, but right here, in the architecture of your own body. Great. Let's descend from the philosophy into the dojo. We have identified the enemy, the swinging pendulum of the dualistic mind. Now we must forge the weapon to stop it. This brings us to the practical core of our hunt, the manual of operations that transforms abstract theory into concrete reality. The first thing you must understand is that you cannot fight the mind with the mind. You cannot think your way out of a thinking trap. If you try to use logic to stop your internal dialogue, you are just adding more noise to the room. You are pouring gasoline on a fire, hoping to drown it. To escape the pendulum, you must shift your base of operations. You must move your center of gravity from the chaotic narrative of your thoughts to the stable reality of your physiology. This is where the ancient concept of the vertical axis comes into play. Think of your body not as a bag of meat and bones, but as a lightning rod connecting the earth to the sky. In the Zen tradition, posture is not just about comfort, it is about geometry. When you sit with your spine erect, you are physically mimicking the state of alertness you want to achieve mentally. You are building a structure, but where should your attention go? Most modern instructions tell you to watch your breath or scan your body. These are fine starting points, but to achieve the non-dual focus we are talking about, we need a higher vantage point. Focus your attention on the very top of your head, the crown. In anatomical terms, we are near the fontanelle. In esoteric traditions, this is the Sahasrara, or the thousand-petaled lotus. In our samurai metaphor, this is the watchtower of the fortress. Why here? Because it represents the highest point of your physical existence, the point furthest away from the instinctual churn of the gut and the emotional heat of the chest. By placing your awareness at the crown, you are symbolically and energetically pulling yourself up the rope of the pendulum toward that pivot point we discussed. Imagine a thin silver cord extending from the center of the earth, up through your spine, and out through the top of your head, pulling you gently upwards. This is your axis. Now, hold your attention there, not with tension, not by furrowing your brow, but with a light, magnetic touch. It feels like a subtle pressure, a tiny vibration, or simply a sense of presence at the peak of the skull. This is your anchor. This is the non-dual focal point. As you hold this focus, the inevitable will happen. The enemy will attack. Your mind will throw up a distraction. It might be a memory of an awkward conversation, a fear about an upcoming bill, or an itch on your nose. This is the critical moment. This is where the training happens. The untrained mind, the mind stuck on the pendulum, reacts immediately. It says, "I hate this itch," or "I am worried about that bill." It engages with the content. It grabs the swinging weight. The samurai of consciousness does something different. You are perched in the watchtower at the top of your head. You see the thought enter the gates of your awareness, but instead of running down to greet it, instead of arguing with it or trying to kick it out, you simply watch it. You employ a specific kind of vision, a non-discriminating gaze. You look at the thought of fear and the thought of excitement with the exact same level of neutrality. You strip the labels off the packages. This is the hardest work you will ever do. It requires a ferocity of will that is invisible to the outside world. You are training yourself to separate the data from the drama. When a painful emotion arises, usually we say, "I am sad." We fuse our identity with the temporary feeling. We become the pendulum. In this practice, from your high vantage point, you reframe the experience. You say, "There is a sensation of heaviness in the chest." Do you see the difference? You have removed the I. You have removed the story. You are left with raw energy. You are observing the duality, the pain, the pleasure, the noise, without becoming it. This brings us to the concept of the single beam. The prompt for this hunt mentioned integrating the dual into a unified face, a beam. Imagine your attention is usually a scattered light bulb, illuminating everything weakly. Your worries, your plans, your surroundings. In this state of deep, anchored focus, you are turning that light bulb into a laser. A laser is coherent light. All the waves are moving in unison. When you anchor at the top of the head and refuse to engage with the binary game of good thought, bad thought, your consciousness begins to cohere. You stop wasting energy on the friction of internal conflict. All that energy that used to go into arguing with yourself is now reclaimed. It gathers in the center. This is why seasoned meditators often describe a feeling of heat or intense pressure. It isn't magic, it's conservation of energy. It is the feeling of a system that has stopped leaking power. You are forging a state of mind that is dense, heavy and luminous, like a collapsed star. Let's apply this to the internal dialogue, that relentless narrator. The goal is not to force it to silence. If you scream "shut up" at your mind, who is screaming? It's just another voice. It's the mind fighting the mind. Instead, you treat the internal dialogue like a radio playing in the next room. You hear it. You know it's there, but you are not listening to the lyrics. You keep your attention fixed on the sensation at the top of the head. You starve the dialogue of your interest. Without the fuel of your attention, the pendulum loses momentum. Gravity takes over. The swings get smaller and smaller. And then something extraordinary happens. A gap opens up. Between one thought and the next, there is a sliver of silence. At first, it lasts a microsecond. But as you persist, as you keep returning to that focal point at the crown, the gap widens. In that gap, there is no you and them, no past and future. There is just pure, vibrant existence. This is the fortress. This is the place where you are untouchable. This practice is the gym for your nervous system. Every time you catch your mind wandering and bring it back to the anchor, you are doing a rep. You are strengthening the muscle of inhibition. You are rewiring your brain to pause before reacting. You are teaching your biology that it is safe to be still, that it doesn't need to constantly scan for threats or chase rewards to survive. But let's be clear, this is boring. It is repetitive. It is frustrating. The mind will scream for entertainment. It will beg for the sugar rush of a fantasy or the adrenaline of a worry. It hates the pivot point because at the pivot point, the ego has nothing to do. The ego thrives on drama, on the swing. By staying in the center, you are effectively killing the old version of yourself. That is why it feels like a battle. That is why we call it the way of the warrior. You are standing guard at the gates of your own soul, sword in hand, refusing to let the chaos run the city. This integration of the jewel, taking the hot and cold, the high and low, and fusing them into a single column of presence, is the secret of the rod of iron mentioned in ancient texts. It is the unbending backbone of the sage. It is what allows a human being to walk through a tragedy without collapsing, not because they are unfeeling, but because they are rooted in a dimension of themselves that tragedy cannot touch. They have found the eye of the hurricane. So the instruction is simple but not easy. Sit, spine straight, eyes closed or half open, gazing at the floor. Anchor your attention at the crown of the head. Breathe naturally. When the pendulum swings, and it will, do not grab it. Watch it arc, acknowledge its movement, and then gently, firmly, ruthlessly return to the center, over and over again. 10,000 times. This is how you forge the steel. This is how you build the capacity to face what comes next. But why? Why go through this rigorous, boring, invisible training? Why sit in silence and battle the hydra of your own thoughts? We don't do it to become better at sitting. We don't do it to win a spiritual merit badge. We build the fortress for one reason only, because the siege is coming. This is the brutal truth that the wellness industry often tries to hide. Life is not designed to be a permanent vacation. Chaos is baked into the fabric of the universe. Entropy is the rule, not the exception. Sooner or later, the phone will ring with bad news. The market will crash. The relationship will end. The body will fail. These are the moments when the pendulum swings violently to the far left, into the dark territory of pain and loss. For the untrained mind, these moments are catastrophic because they are identified with the pendulum. When life swings into darkness, they become the darkness. They shatter. They are swept away by the flood of anxiety and despair because they have no anchor, no point of reference outside of the storm. They are like a leaf in a hurricane, completely at the mercy of the wind. But for the practitioner, the samurai of consciousness, who has spent 1,000 hours locating that non-dual focal point, the experience is radically different. When the crisis hits, you don't panic. You engage the protocol. You feel the adrenaline. You acknowledge the grief. You see the chaos, but you instinctively retreat to the watchtower. You activate the vertical axis. You find that spot at the crown of the head, that silent witness that has been trained to hold the tension of opposites. And from that vantage point, you discover a superpower that seems almost supernatural to those who don't have it. You find that you can function. You can make clear decisions while everyone else is losing their heads. You can feel profound pain without being destroyed by it. You become the eye of the storm. The winds of fate are howling at 200 miles an hour around you, tearing up the scenery of your life. But in the center, at the pivot point, There is a stillness that is absolute. This is the ultimate purpose of meditation. It is not an escape from reality. It is the only way to truly face reality without blinking. It turns you into a conductor of the chaotic energies of life. Instead of blocking the flow or drowning in it, you channel it through that single beam of awareness. You become a rod of iron, conductive yet immovable. And this brings us to the edge of a much larger mystery. If you can observe your thoughts, you are not your thoughts. If you can observe your pain, you are not your pain. If you can observe the passage of time, are you even bound by time? By moving your identity from the swinging pendulum to the stationary pivot point, you are doing more than just managing stress. You are shifting your address in the cosmos. You are identifying with the consciousness that precedes the personality. You are tapping into the I am that was there before you were born and will be there after the screen fades to black. The ancient texts suggest that this focal point, this silent witness, is not just a psychological trick. It is a spark of the infinite, a fragment of the absolute reality looking out through your eyes. So the next time you sit to meditate, remember that you are not just relaxing. You are dying to the small self so that the greater self can be born. You are practicing the art of immortality. You are learning to stand in the fire and not burn. And that leaves us with the final haunting question for our hunt today. If the only thing that remains stable in a universe of constant change is the observer itself, then what happens when you finally stop watching the show and turn your attention back onto the watcher? When the camera tries to film itself, that is a mirror that might just reflect the face of God. And that's our hunt for now, a wild mix of documented history, Zen discipline, and tantalizing what-ifs based on bibliographical sources. What do you think? Is meditation a relaxation tool, or is it a weapon for survival in a chaotic world? If these ideas resonate with you, consider subscribing so we can continue this journey together.